This time, I'd like to talk about how foreign businessmen and investors perceive the Chinese economy and how this might affect not only economic issues but also power dynamics in the political world. So, first, please take a look at this. This is an article from the first half of this year, and it shows that direct investment in China from abroad has dropped significantly, by as much as 80%, reaching the lowest level in 30 years. So, why has this happened? I think there are two main reasons. First, the period of rapid economic growth in China has come to an end. Every country has a period of vigorous economic growth, especially those that have not yet developed economically, because they have a lot of room for improvement. For example, in a country that previously transported goods by handcarts, the introduction of railways or widespread use of automobiles can dramatically increase productivity. In China, which had very little infrastructure before, the introduction of railways, the development of ports, and the spread of the internet led to productivity improvements that were dozens, hundreds, or even thousands of times greater. Therefore, when a country with nothing begins to grow economically, it has tremendous explosive power. But what about China now? They have almost everything they need. They've built everything they should, and in fact, they've overbuilt. For instance, many railways are now running at a loss, and there's no longer an economic benefit large enough to justify the ongoing deficits. The railway infrastructure, even if it's running at a loss, isn't entirely pointless, as long-distance transportation can offset the deficits if it generates enough surplus. However, in China, they've built so many unnecessary railways that the maintenance costs have become a major issue, to the point that infrastructure development has reached a saturation point. In other words, there's not much room for further growth in China. If there's any potential, it would be in the fact that there are still many poor people in China, and if their wages rise, China's domestic purchasing power could explode, making it a huge market. However, this is unlikely, as China's wealth distribution is skewed, and rather than the poor getting richer, it's more likely that those who are currently living moderately will become poorer. As a result, China's overall purchasing power is expected to shrink, and from a purely economic perspective, the Chinese market is becoming less attractive. That's one reason why investing in China seems pointless. The second reason is the political instability in China. From the standpoint of businessmen, China is a country where you can't invest with peace of mind. Even companies that have been operating smoothly and making great profits can suddenly find themselves in a management crisis due to political decisions. For example, Alibaba was once considered a leading Chinese IT company with skyrocketing stock prices, but under the Xi Jinping administration, it has significantly declined due to political pressure. Why does this political pressure occur? In short, from Xi Jinping's perspective, Jack Ma is someone who doesn't listen. And even though such pressure might be negative for the Chinese economy, the pressure still comes. Furthermore, when companies grow large in China, the Communist Party becomes involved in their operations, turning them into party interests. This leaves no dreams for business owners. Even if they build a massive fortune by growing their company, they never know when the Communist Party might take it all away. There are plenty of examples where accumulated wealth has been entirely confiscated or taken by the party. Most recently, there have been similar incidents, which I plan to discuss in an upcoming video. As for the current situation in China, there is little room left for economic growth, and Chinese business is politically unstable. A business that has been doing well could suddenly collapse depending on the whims of the Communist Party, making it a country where investing heavily is extremely risky. That's how investors and businessmen outside of China view the situation. However, in Japan, such information isn't widely shared, so there are still companies and business leaders who think they should keep trying in China. On the other hand, globally, as I mentioned earlier, investment in China has dropped significantly. The majority opinion now is that China is no longer the place to be. In such a context, a recent event that has attracted a lot of attention is related to the Chinese online retail site Pinduoduo, which is listed on the US Nasdaq. The company's performance for the second quarter of 2024 has been announced, and it showed an 86% increase in revenue compared to the same period last year. This indicates that Chinese consumers are shifting from shopping in physical stores to buying cheaper products online. For those who have been to China or live there, you might know that physical stores in China are almost the same everywhere, except in a few limited areas. Unlike in Japan, where shopping itself is a form of entertainment, with different displays in each department store and unique features in restaurants, in China, there is not much fun in going out shopping. That's why internet shopping has become so popular, leading to a decline in brick-and-mortar stores and businesses that lease commercial properties. On the other hand, online retail companies are increasing their sales. For Pinduoduo, Not only have their sales increased, but their profits have also grown, rising 139% year-on-year. This means they are seeing both increased revenue and profits. However, despite this, the company's stock price plummeted after the earnings announcement, losing $55 billion in just one day. In Japanese yen, this is about 7 to 8 trillion yen. That means investors in this company lost around 8 trillion yen in one day. After hearing this, you might wonder why this happened. One reason is that the company fell short of expectations before the earnings announcement. In the US, before a company announces its earnings, a consensus is usually formed about the expected results. If a company exceeds these expectations, like Nvidia did recently, its stock price skyrockets. However, if it falls short, the stock is sold off. In Pinduoduo's case, the pre-earnings forecast was about 999.8 billion yuan, so the expected revenue was around 1 trillion yuan. However, even though they managed to grow their revenue to 970.6 billion yuan, their stock was still sold off. This reflects the growing caution towards the Chinese market, as I discussed earlier. Now, what's important to note is that in the past, there were high expectations for the Chinese economy in countries other than China. However, now those expectations are fading, and more people are becoming pessimistic. Meanwhile, in Japan, the atmosphere is still a bit too optimistic. This isn't just limited to the general public but also applies to the government's response, politicians' thinking, and the way the media handles it. In Japan, there are too many people in influential positions who don't feel the sense of urgency that other countries do. For instance, the Japanese media should be reporting on how the Chinese economy is currently doing and how foreign investors are viewing China. Politicians and government officials should be gathering information quickly to prepare for what's next. However, as we've seen with issues like immigration, even though it's a major problem in other countries, Japan is still moving in the direction of increasing immigration. The Japanese government is lagging behind, and the same can be said for their view on the Chinese economy. Recently, a group of Japanese parliamentarians from both the ruling and opposition parties, called the Japan-China Friendship Parliamentary Alliance, visited China. They requested visa exemptions for Japanese citizens and suggested increasing exchanges between young people. But these visa exemptions aren't necessary. Especially for those who are well informed about China, many would prefer not to go there. Right now, because visas are hard to get, some people are holding back from going to China, which is actually helping them. If visas were exempted, some people might be forced to go on dangerous business trips to China. Many people probably think that these politicians are out of touch. However, as the Chinese economy continues to decline and the world increasingly sees China as an unstable place to invest, the influence of politicians who claim to have strong ties with China might fade. In the past, those who hoped to make money through business in China supported such politicians, but as global expectations of China diminish, so might the demand for politicians with strong Chinese connections. Instead, the public might begin to support those who advocate for protecting Japan. With this hope, that's how I see things unfolding. So, that's it for this discussion. I'll see you in the next video.